Donald Trump's federal election interference case is now back in Judge Tanya Chutkan's court. Special counsel Jack Smith requested and was granted a delay until August 30th. While Smith continues to work on his case, the DOJ is still working through prosecutions of January 6th insurrectionists, issuing one of its longest sentences yet for a Trump supporter who prosecutors described as one of the most violent rioters. Prosecutors say he used flagpoles, crutches, pepper spray, and even broken pieces of furniture as weapons against police officers. On Friday, he was sentenced to 20 years behind bars. Joining us now, Timothy Hafey. He's a former federal prosecutor and former lead investigator to the House January 6th Select Committee. Tim, in short, why is Jack Smith asking for this 3-week delay, especially as the whole time we've been saying time is of the essence here?
Yeah, Allie, I have a feeling that the special counsel may want to recraft their case affirmatively before it goes to Judge Chutkan. You might even see a superseding indictment before August 30th, which would potentially streamline the case, right? The special counsel applying the Supreme Court's immunity decision and deciding first what they believe survives that decision and what does not. Potentially even adding other counts or other defendants. So speculation here, but my guess is that rather than a hearing where Judge Chutkan considers the current indictment, they may want to put forth a new indictment that in their view comports to the Supreme Court's ruling in the immunity matter.
Well, because what aspect of that immunity ruling do you think is either most concerning or most helpful to Jack Smith?
Well, I mean, obviously, the Supreme Court said that the things like the conversations that the president had about replacing the acting attorney general, heartland official conduct, and are immunized. So that part of the case that's in the indictment likely falls away. And then the test that they articulated for everything else that's official but could potentially be charged is if the prosecution somehow impairs the functioning of executive authority. That's a very vague standard. So Judge Chutkan has to evaluate and apply that standard and apply it to real facts. So the special counsel will need to demonstrate what the facts are and make arguments as to how those acts that are alleged in the indictment are either unofficial or, even if they're official, the presumption of their immunity is overcome because the prosecution would not impair the executive function. Very hard to tell, Allie, how this all shakes out when Judge Chutkan and other judges start to apply the Supreme Court's opinion to real facts.
Yeah, that's the moment where the precedents start actually getting set here. We'll look ahead to the end of August for that. I want to turn briefly to the latest January 6th rioter sentence. We talked about it at the top. It comes as Trump reiterated at the NABJ conference just a few weeks ago that he would pardon these rioters if he wins the election. But when you look at this sentence, one of the longest out there, is it justified in your view?
Absolutely, it's justified. Look, any judge, when he or she is imposing sentence in a criminal case, looks at what happened, right? The counts of conviction, the defendant's criminal history, and his or her expressions of remorse. This guy really fails in all three areas. The facts are egregious. As your lead-in just indicated, here's a person with weapons repeatedly assaulting police officers at the Capitol, trying to gain entry at the West Front. That was one of the sites of the most violence that we saw horrifically unfold over the course of the day. He also has a prior record of violent crimes. So this is not the first time he's been convicted of violent criminal conduct. And then finally, he's just not remorseful, right? He's another one of these J6 defendants who continues to assert that he did nothing wrong, that this was pushing back against tyranny, which is right as a citizen. Judge Royce Lamberth imposed the sentence. Judge Lamberth's been on the bench for years. He's a Reagan appointee, immense respect in Washington, D.C., and my guess is that that lack of remorse there at the end is what really pushed Judge Lamberth to go hard, in my view, justifiably hard on this defendant.
And while I have you, I do want to get to one other impact of the immunity ruling, which is that it's led to a delay in another proceeding related to Trump's 34 felony count hush money conviction. Judge Juan Merchan has pushed back the date for the decision on the immunity ruling by 10 days. The date set for Trump's sentencing, if it becomes necessary, is still for September 18th. But what do you make of the delay? And do you think that this sentencing, frankly, is ever going to happen?
I do think it's going to happen. I think it will happen on September 18th. I think every judge, Judge Merchan, Judge Cannon, Judge Chutkan, and the judge in Georgia have to apply the Supreme Court's immunity case, and that requires thoughtful analysis and likely a written opinion. Judge Merchan asked for briefs on the issue from the former president's team and from the New York DA. He's received those briefs. He's going to write something where I predict he'll say that the conduct at issue in the New York case is not official conduct. Most of it took place before Donald Trump was president, and therefore is unaffected by the immunity ruling. But given the Supreme Court's opinion, he has to go through that process of accepting, analyzing the arguments of the parties, and issuing an opinion. But I think he's going to be sentenced. I think the former president is sentenced on September 18th.
Everyone's scrambling to make sense of that Supreme Court decision as it relates to all these different specific avenues. Tim Heaphy, thank you for joining us.